At She Glows Africa magazine, part of our core mandate is to unify and amplify the voices of female Africans that are already making an impact across Africa. We desire for these women to manifest their greatness beyond the geographical demarcations. My name is Alice Tabgira, and I'm your host at From the Horse's Mouth, proudly brought to you by She Glows Africa magazine. Today, I'm so pleased to have one of the game changers in the civic spaces. Her name is Ekenia Chifamba, the founding director of ShamwariYemwanasikana. Apart from that, like I said, she's a game changer in the civic space. She wears so many hats across the space. Welcome, Director.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you for having me on the show.
Congratulations on your new appointment at the Men Engage Global Board.
Thank you, Alice.
Now you tell us what's happening there and maybe a little bit of the many hats that you wear.
So this is a very interesting appointment, not only for me as an individual, but for Zimbabwe as well, because then we are taking our advocacy work to a global level, and focus is around gender equality. We are looking at advocacy work on climate change and how women and girls are affected by the climate change issues that are happening globally, particularly issues around sexual reproductive health rights, issues around child marriages, and how we can also share our best practices as Africa, as Zimbabwe, also how we can do like exchange programs and bring Zimbabwe to the map. I'm also thinking that this could be a game changer for our He for She campaign that we are doing through the Ministry of Women Affairs, and how Zimbabwe has also managed to bring our traditional leaders platform for a change. I know there are a number of traditional leaders in Zimbabwe who have managed to do like bylaws that are actually making a difference around child marriages in different areas. And this actually will be that game changer. And I'm hoping that it will intertwine with a lot of work that I've also been doing at a global level with Civicus, with SAPA, and other boards that I've been working on. But my hope is that we move from just documentation, from policy, to actually walking the talk as a collective.
Despite people thinking that there isn't enough awareness with regards to the bill amendment, what positives can you share, or what wins can you share that you know have been achieved so far?
So I think one thing I love about Zimbabwe is how we embrace our social media. And I've been seeing a lot of influencers in Zimbabwe sharing around the amendments to the Constitution. If you look at a lot of our social media influencers in Zimbabwe, there are a lot of posts that have been made and that have also made it very engaging in a positive or negative manner, but at least it has been raising awareness. We have also seen churches making a huge stand up to it, because then they are aware of it, and we've been seeing sermons that have been preached in the churches by most well-known church leaders, just to show that people have knowledge around it. Those who watch the national television, they know there's something happening, radio stations, various radio stations. And like I said earlier on, the community radio stations also, I know Zakras have been making an effort to ensure that no one is left behind. So that's a positive as well.
Thank you. Is the civil society fulfilling its duty regarding educating ordinary Zimbabweans about the constitutional changes being talked about? Won't this decision affect women the most, as is usual with any type of segregation?
I think civil society has been trying quite a lot to raise awareness with regards to the changes that are taking place with the Constitution. I know there are some amendments, recent amendments that have been done to the Constitution, and the Women's Coalition in particular, which is an umbrella body of civil society organizations, together with other human rights umbrellas for civil society organizations, have been doing quite a lot. Also targeting the hard to reach areas, also utilizing social media platforms, just trying to do the did you knows of what the amendments entail and what the effects can be, and what it means to us as ordinary citizens and to us as women as well, because majority of the times where there are amendments to bills and adjustments to policies and laws, women are affected mostly, and we have seen that I think mostly challenges that we're worried about is that mostly women in hard to reach areas, they have got challenges accessing information because they cannot afford to buy data. They have challenges also because of, now because we know the community radios, at least they can access some of the information. But then in areas where there are no community radios, that also becomes a challenge. And then we know also in areas where there is no print media, it becomes a challenge for women to actually access that. And then we are also acknowledging that there are women with various disabilities, some who cannot read, some who actually would need support, and then the visually impaired as well, because we would also want the information to reach to every other woman.
Okay, that is perfect, because I also believe in intersectional advocacy. Yeah. So, do you mean to say if I go to Gokwe down there, they know about this this constitutional change and what the bill entails? Are you teaching women what they are supposed to know, the pros and the cons of the change?
So what has been happening, Alice, is that with civil society organizations, we have also tried to use our traditional methods of sharing information, the on-news campaigns that we normally do, which is a multi-stakeholder approach, together with like-minded colleagues. Like I said, there's the Women's Coalition of Zimbabwe, and then there is NANGO, other human rights organizations that are there. And then also there are conversations that have been happening in the communities, where we have our usual dandaros with our young women and girls, Chotoche Madzimai, where we are meeting with our women, sometimes even where it's just to know it at Noti Zundera Mambo, where there's the chief's granary. We take advantage of such platforms where there's Darera Mambo to also disseminate information around that. But we have also realized that it's not just about us as civil society, because civil society is also working in partnership with churches. The Zimbabwe Council of Churches, we've partnered with them. So churches have also started disseminating information around that. But we also believe that these are collective efforts, that it's not just civil society organizations and the churches, but the government as well, through various media platforms, just acknowledging the masses to say these are the changes that are happening within the Constitution and how each and every one of us are affected and how we can contribute and be part of the journey at the end of the day. But what I know is there is still a lot that needs to be done, because this needs to be simplified for every woman to really understand the policy. We all didn't study law. We all might not understand the jargon, but we need it to be simplified in the language that we would all understand. We need it to be simplified on social media. We need it to be simplified, even flyers that can be shared, at public water collecting points, when people go kwenda kunogaisa, when people go to churches, these flyers should be distributed so that at the end of the day, everybody as a citizen, this is our constitution, we have the right to know. And mostly as women, we are affected mostly.
Wow, I love that. Anyways, despite years of advocacy, gender-based violence remains widespread. At what point do we admit that awareness campaigns are not enough, and what radical shifts are actually required?
I think GBV has been a huge challenge, not only in Zimbabwe, but at a global level. If you continue to revisit the statistics, UNFPA reminds us that 1 in 3 women have been violated in their lifetime, and that's shocking as well. Mm-hmm. And we realize that there's a lot of work that has been done in Zimbabwe as a collective from various civil society organizations, and we've seen that churches have also joined in the campaigns. We've seen efforts that have been done by the government to also look at the aspect of policies. Awareness campaigns have been done, Alice. Mm-hmm. We have seen awareness raising done on social media platforms. Mm-hmm. We have seen the on-wheels campaigns that became very popular from the COVID period, where when people were under the lockdown, we saw a surge in statistics of GBV cases. And we saw awareness campaigns being done even in schools, because usually it's the below 18 age group that is targeted. And, awareness raising being done literally everywhere. But I also feel that for gender-based violence to be eradicated, not only in Zimbabwe, but looking at it being a scourge in Africa as a whole, I think there is more that needs to be done. We need to acknowledge that, of course, there are efforts that have been done in terms of putting in place policies that really can be a game changer. We've seen the introduction of the Marriage Act. We have seen the introduction of the age of consent issue, which was quite topical. We saw the introduction of the Children's Rights Act and many more. The Constitution itself talks about the below 18 age group and the child marriages issue. But I strongly feel that what is also lagging behind has been the issue of implementation of these policies, and also monitoring of these policies as well. Like, we have got independent commissions that are in Zimbabwe that really have the mandate to ensure that whatever progress is being made is being monitored, whatever progress is being made is also being documented. And then we also have the issue around social norms, which continues to be a major issue that we are battling with. And with social norms here in Zimbabwe, we're looking with the challenges that we are having with our male counterparts, because we have always been referring to them as the perpetrators. And we know that at some point in time, we need to move away from just talking about awareness raising. We need to move away from just talking about policies. We need them to also come on board. As they come on board, changing their attitudes and behaviors, we know that also makes a huge difference, because these are the uncles, these are the fathers, these are the brothers, they are the teachers in the schools who happens to be the perpetrators. They are the pastors in the churches. Look at what has been happening in various churches where we see men of cloth taking advantage of these women who are being preyed upon. So if there is that shift, then it means we'll be heading towards somewhere. So awareness raising alone is not enough. It should be a collective of everything else. But that shift from attitudes and behaviors from men and boys, but also a proper implementation of laws and policies to actually say we are making a huge difference because we are monitoring and documenting the process.
Wow, I love that, because I've always struggled with Africa at large. If you look at majority of the constitutions, they are on point. They are on point. The paper police, the paper whatever, it's on point. But when it comes to implementation, because we already have a woman down in the rural areas who is not able to own land. But in the Constitution, it says she has the right to own land, but she's not able to own land. And she doesn't know who can help her to own what she has the right to own. We have churches that are preaching submission, which in one way or the other, I believe it's suppression of women. They're preaching submission, which I also believe to be a misinterpretation of scripture to suit systemic interests. We have also churches that are still marrying off young girls. So the Constitution is so good on paper, but when it comes to implementation, we have a challenge. So we'll continue having awareness programs, we'll continue preaching that we have the best constitution in Africa or whatever, but implementation,
it becomes
accountability.
Yeah, it becomes a challenge. And the issue of accountability as well, Alice, we see what has been happening in Africa. Malawi, for example, and look at what is happening in Zimbabwe right now. Zimbabwe, we do not have policies around regularization of churches.
Yes.
And that's why we have all these men of cloth who are gallivanting and taking women for a ride. Because then at the end of the day, there is no accountability. We have them in prison 1 minute, the next minute they are out there preying on other women as well, because these churches are not regulated. But the moment the churches are regulated, there is accountability.
Like what Rwanda did.
Exactly, like what Rwanda did. So if we don't have that, that also becomes a challenge.
Okay, economic empowerment is often presented as the solution for women's liberation. But can financial independence alone dismantle patriarchy? Or are we oversimplifying the problem?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, Alice. I think that's when we talk about elephants in the room, that's just one of them. And I think majority of the times when we have conversations as women and we talk about emancipation and empowerment, we often associate it with financial independence. And we tend to forget that it's a process, it's a journey, and it's supposed to come as something which is comprehensive. And if you're a woman and you want to be whole and you want to be complete and fully emancipated, then you cannot do and skip. You cannot do one and skip the other. The reason why I'm saying this is I've seen a lot of women who are doing quite well and have managed to be in the spaces where they make decisions and they are doing amazingly well. But also there are challenges that come probably with unresolved issues of childhood traumas. Some have been in environments where they've been victims of abuse. They are now survivors. And we have seen women who wear powerful hats and they sit on powerful tables. But where they are coming from, we know that they could be experiencing domestic violence. And we go to our young sisters who see us as their inspiration, and we continue to tell them that if you are financially emancipated and your financial independence, it's enough. So what we need to teach our women out there, I think I'll date it back to what our mothers went through. You realize that their confidence was thwarted right from where they grew up in, the families that they grew up in. They were never given the voice. They were never given the opportunities to go to school. And then you are growing up in a family where they grew up with the boys. The social norms that were impeding on their growth and development were already there. By the time they moved into marriages, that became something even bigger because they could not even stand up for themselves and defend themselves. So it's never enough to be financially independent. It's never enough to be economically empowered and not have the other empowerment on the other side. I think for women to be fully emancipated, you need to ensure that you walk the journey of being fully, confident and knowing who you are. It's about understanding yourself.
Mental emancipation.
Yes, mental emancipation.
And I think, sorry to cut you. I think once we understand that we are dealing with a systemic problem, we will know where to start from. Mm-hmm. This is not about financial independence alone. It's a system that is established to oppress. A system, a whole system. And I love the point that you just raised, that because I once came across this political figure from, must be Uganda. She was saying, yes, I'm powerful, I've got a powerful voice across the nation and stuff, or across the continent, but when I go back home, I'll always remember that I'm never equal to my husband. I cringed. And I say, okay, these are the women that are passing down their traumas to the next generation. Because how can you say that? The Constitution itself is saying, Section 8 is saying we are equal. Even in marriage, husband and wife, they are equals. But a political leader is coming, using their powerful voice to say, I'm under my husband, I'm never equal to my husband. So it's not always about financial independence, because there are so many foolish women who are independent financially, but passing down traumas to generations and generations. Instead of facing the system and fight it tooth and nail, they are passing down their traumas.
Yeah.
So thank you for raising that point.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think the more the reason why we need to create safe spaces for women leaders and our younger generation, those who are inspired, those who are yearning to also occupy leadership positions, and be honest about our experiences, that whatever went wrong in the past, we do not want to pass on that kind of fear, the traumas, like you're saying, to the next generation. If we're going to be fully emancipated, it can never be about the financial aspect alone. It has to be whole. It has to be complete, because we can never claim those spaces without us being whole and complete.
Perfect. What are you on to right now at ShamwariYemwanasikana?
Okay, so we've got an interesting project that we are implementing, which is funded by Ekenia. It's focusing on young women and girls occupying leadership positions. This is focusing on governance, political leadership. So we are creating intergenerational platforms with seasoned leaders. We're going to be doing boot camps, the citadels, and then we're going to be debunking the social norms. So conversations with traditional leaders, the men and boys. We'll be doing Chotoche Madzimai, the intergenerational dialogues. Let's hear what our moms have to say. It's never only about seasoned leaders, but we also have to hear the journeys that our mothers also traveled. And then we're going to do symposiums with the seasoned female leaders and the male leaders as well. Like, why are we not represented on the table? Why do we have to bring our chairs to the table? Why are you not creating the spaces for us? But also, yes, the usual advocacy work around termination of Pregnancy Act. That's a heated debate. Access to sexual reproductive health and rights. So there's a lot that is currently happening right now. But just to continue encouraging the girls to create the safe spaces through our dandaros, online, offline. And yes, for the men and boys as well, to continue joining us so they change their attitudes and behaviors, of course.
Well done for the work that you're doing. We applaud you and we respect you for that. Please keep on doing it. And please keep on engaging, especially men. Ladies and gentlemen, let's engage in the comment section. Bye.